Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the February session of the Paulding County Planning Commission. At this moment, I'd ask everybody, if you have a mobile device, anything that makes a sound, turn it off, turn it to silent so it doesn't interrupt the proceedings. Check with everybody here at the Planning Commission if you've had a chance to review the minutes from the previous session of this body, if you have any questions or concerns or edits. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion with regard to the minutes from previous session.
So moved.
To approve or?
To approve.
To approve by Mr. Callahan.
Second.
Second by Ms. Fitzgerald. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0 and 1. And we can move on to regular business. I'll begin by covering just a few items. Planning Commission is a recommending body. We will hear each case that is brought before us. Each application will be presented by the applicant or the applicant's agent. They have 15 minutes to present. They can use all of that time or reserve some for rebuttal. They don't have to use it all. Or if they have additional people willing to speak, they'll share that time. Anybody wishing to speak in opposition or may have questions or comments or concerns regarding an application, there's 15 minutes total time. I would ask that you come to the lectern, you sign in, you state your name, and address your comments to the chair. The chair is me. Same thing goes for the applicant. All comments need to be addressed to myself. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Robinson. I believe we got a couple of changes in the agenda, so if you would cover those for us now.
Good afternoon. We've had two changes on the agenda. Zoning case 2024-07Z, application by Pulte Home Company, which was asking to rezone 49 acres from R2 to R3 off of Dabbs Bridge Road. That application has been withdrawn from the applicant, or by the applicant. And the other is 2408Z. This was a site plan amendment for a development of our master plan residential, which is off Gullidge Road and Seven Hills Boulevard. That one has been officially removed at this time for development of regional impact process.
All right. So again, as a recommending body, there are two different governing bodies that we're hearing applications for. One is for the city of Hiram. Once the recommendation from the Planning Commission is made, that will be forwarded to the city of Hiram for a final determination. The date of the legal public hearing in that jurisdiction will be determined as it relates to appropriate advertising and state required advertising requirements. For the Paulding County Board of Commissioners, we'll hear those applications, and of course any final recommendation will be forwarded to the Board of Commissioners. Those will be heard on March 12th at 2 p.m. Again, the applicant is required to be there or the applicant's agent for the application to be considered. So at this time, I would ask Mr. Robinson if there's anything I failed to announce. If not, would you please introduce the first application?
We'll be glad to do that. First application, 2024-02Z, within the city of Hiram. Application by Donald Redmond requesting to rezone 3 parcels totaling 1.37 acres from R2 Suburban Residential District to B2 Highway Business District. This is again within the city of Hiram, and it's for the intended purposes of using the existing structure, which is a home out there, to operate as an office for a AA petroleum testing services and compliance business. Property is located in land lot 752, District 2, Section 3. It's on the south side of Dallas Street, and it's east of Hiram Douglasville Highway, also known as State Route 92. And it's in Commission Post 3, and it's recommended approval with 3 printed stipulations. The applicant's present.
The applicant will please come around, sign in, state your name, and address your comments to the chair.
You said sign in?
Please.
Okay. Necessary for both those.
If you're both going to speak, you would both need to sign in.
So I'm just the designer. My name's Donald Redmond. I'm the designer on the project.
All right.
So he's Stephen Brooks. He's actually going to speak and answer any of your questions. He's the landowner.
Okay.
in the business, huh? Okay, so I'm just,
Stipulations, I think, that's the first thing.
do what now?
Go ahead.
I was in the understanding, first of all, thank y'all for allowing us to be here and for giving us the time. I understand there's some stipulations which we want to just go through and figure out what we need to say or do about it, so.
Generally, if you would like, and I understand this might be the first time you've presented, you just introduce what you're intending to do with the property, what is the
Okay.
change in use from what it has been to what you're planning to do.
Okay,
And then we'll cover the stipulations with you. You have a chance right now if you want to read them. But for us to be able to move forward, we'll need to understand if you are in agreement with those three stipulations or not.
understood. The business has been there we've lived in that house for like 30 years, I think it was. Is that about right? And then we have now moved over on Hiram City Road. And this, we were either going to sell or we was going to keep our business in. We had spent probably 15 to 20 years as business in here in the city of Hiram. So the same business would be back in there. We moved over on Hiram City Road because that's where we were going to be building our forever home. And that got turned down by Paulding County, so we had to move our business and find a place to rent. So we're trying to go through the ropes in the right way to be able to use something we already own so that we don't have to be paying rent somewhere. We didn't even know that we wasn't supposed to be in here. It was given permission to use as an office space before for us, which we did do for those years. And then we moved because of the banking stipulations. So all we're doing now is asking permission to be able to go back in and just use it as an office. We do have guys that's in trucks, which they take them home, and occasionally they come by, usually on a Friday, drop off paperwork, and then they don't usually come back in there until the end of the week. So it's not that much traffic. I think we've got 5 trucks. We're fixing to put 2 back on the road too, so that makes 7 trucks. And then we've got 4 employees that'll be over there most all the time. And so it's really nothing but paperwork. We work for the state and for the federal government. We keep up with the gasoline business. We do not house gasoline. We do not keep gasoline around. No volatile equipment or products of any kind. We've got nitrogen tanks is what we use, which is not a problem for anything. It doesn't explode, you know. The only thing would happen is if, you know, it fell over, somebody beat it or something with a sledgehammer or whatever, maybe. But it's never happened as far as I know. But nitrogen is a safe gas, and it's used for the testing, and we use it inside the gas tanks. So basically, that's how safe it is. It's just not a flammable thing. It's not a dangerous thing. It's just better than air, basically. It expands on its own. So that would be the only thing we have over there, if anything. And we don't even have to have that there if that's one of the stipulations. But for the most part, we're going to have office upstairs, and downstairs in the garage space, we'll have some equipment that the guys have to have on their trucks, shovels, things like that, hand tools, testing equipment. And that'll be locked and housed downstairs, and that'll be there for them to get if something some of their equipment goes bad or whatever. So pretty much that's all that we're going to be doing at that place. There's really nothing else I can think of that I could tell you about the business other than if you've got questions about it. As far as the stipulations go,
We're going to ask if you agree to those stipulations.
right,
No hazard, no liquid on site.
right. That's the one I was answering just in,
And
and,
then if you change the business, you'll have to go back to the rezoning process.
yep,
And then if they can agree to access to development business,
okay.
they may request access to this meeting.
Well, as far as number 3, you can come to it anytime you want and check it out. I don't have any problem with that. And as far as changing it to a different business, it's not gonna happen. It's the same business as it's always been. And the only difference would be is my son would be taking over it and he'd have to abide by my rules. So whatever I agree to here, he'll be agreeing to. And
And then
and then what? No gas products or anything like that would be there.
liquid petroleum
Yep.
inside.
Well, the
Liquid petroleum, no liquid petroleum.
Well, the three stipulations that are listed, one does guarantee that the business would not change from what the proposed use is under your application
Right,
without basically coming back before the planning commission
Yes, sir.
for additional addressing.
yes, sir.
Number two is the no liquid petroleum, which you've already addressed that, so I'm assuming that would mean you're in agreement with number two.
We are, except for maybe a gas can for a lawnmower, stuff like that. I just have to put that in there. I'm just making sure
Okay.
that's covered.
Well, upkeep and maintenance of the property would be
Right.
appreciated regardless.
Yep,
The third is developer agrees access to the development business shall be determined during plan review process. I'm gonna just keep you there for a second and go to Mr. Robinson regarding this. If they're making no changes to the property and using it as is that going to facilitate a plan review?
I think, after staff review of the application, that there may be some concerns on the access,
Okay.
and we may be some discussion or some, at
So-
least, if there's no major changes, but maybe a simple site plan.
So you'll need to have conversations with the engineering staff of Paulding County
okay,
regarding access to
Yes, sir.
the site, assuming that this is approved here.
Yes, sir.
Or recommended for approval, and then the city subsequently approves it. Okay.
you mean as far as roadway and stuff, right? Okay.
Okay. So, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Are you agreeable to the three listed stipulations then?
I am,
Okay. And as far as the use of the property, you said you've been in business for 15, 20 years doing
since '79 I've been in this
at
business.
this location
No.
or or at a different location?
At this location, it's been what, about
1997.
since 1997?
And you mentioned you have about 5 trucks. Now, at any time, are all 5 going to be parked on the property, or is that?
They come in and they're probably there no more than about 30 minutes each person. It's seldom that they all come in at one time, so.
What I'm trying to ascertain is how busy your business at this location is going to be. I'm
Oh, it's-
assuming since you've been there since
The
97.
worst day would be 5 trucks. There's more people driving up and down the road back there than will ever be on it, so. I'd say 4 cars every day would probably be there from the employees we have.
Okay.
That would be in the office there for the most part.
All right. Well, at this time, I will turn it over to the rest of the planning commission if you have questions to the applicant.
Sir, is this one-way in and one-way out?
It's not a one-way, it's double lane road.
I know, but that's the only way you can get through there.
Into the property,
and come
yes, ma'am.
back out.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you ever thought about making an outlet?
There's no place for it there other than through the post office, which is right dead on behind it, but they won't give us a right of way for that, so that's federal. So they can't allow it. At least that's what I understood years ago when the postmaster was in there before. I would love to be able to come from the city side, but as far as I know, there's no way to do that right now.
So there'd be no big trucks other than your UPS delivery trucks,
That's-
things like that?
That's it, yes, sir.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
what size are your trucks?
They're, you know what transits are, Ford Transits? That's basically it. We've got one Ford tool body truck that's 350, F-350.
Mr. Brooks, you said that you've been running out of this location since 1997. Has it been with the 5 trucks and the 4 employees, or has that grown?
It's stayed around that, yeah,
Okay.
pretty much.
So that's
Like I
typical.
said, I'm putting 2 more on the road here soon, but we have to do that occasionally because, you know, business starts getting up in this time of year, so we have to add a couple of trucks, and then somewhere along the time of the year, sometime around June or September, we'll drop 2 trucks and go on.
But that's pretty typical of what you've been running
Yes, sir.
since 97.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir, what kind of testing do you do?
It's underground storage tank testing. The tanks that they hold the product in, we make sure that they're not leaking into the groundwater, for one. And then there's air vapor controls that keep the gasoline vapors from escaping and going out into the fresh air. So there are those pieces of equipment that maintain the air pressure control have to be checked every year to be sure that they're doing their part so that minimal vapors are getting into the air. And all of these are pretty much mostly the gas station. We do Paulding County bus area. There are also their workshops, several places in Paulding for them as well. But it's a federal and state requirement to do these things annually. So that's what we've been doing. It's a business that not a whole lot of people know about, but we kind of like it that way.
You don't have a lab back. I mean, that do you?
No, ma'am. No lab.
Any other questions from Planning Commission?
And let me clarify one thing for her, okay? Just to make it clear. I understand what you're trying to say, but their testing is done on site and no product ever leaves the facility. We use their product or our nitrogen, and then the testing is done with our equipment that we carry in the vans. The equipment is also cleaned out after the testing is done and put back into the van, and if there's any product used, that goes back into their tanks. And then we are on our way to the next place. So we never carry their equipment, their product anywhere.
Do you have a question?
I have a question. This may be more for staff. With the rezoning of the B2, you've got adjacent properties that are already B1. The stipulation for owner-developer agrees that the rezoning for future changes of business, that would be for the owner-developer currently. But if they were to sell the property, if they were to do something, the B2 zoning stays with the property. So then that would open up this particular parcel to be
No, that's a stipulation.
available for other B2 use.
If it's approved with the stipulations as worded right now, if they sell the property later, the stipulations will continue on the property.
Just to give you a frame of reference, anytime that a zoning certification letter is requested for a particular piece of property, at least from the city's perspective, I assume it works the similar, probably exact same way with the county, is you look at the most recent zoning of that property, whether it was 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago, and try to carry forward with what those stipulations are. You keep those in place, and the only way to change it would be through this process.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions from the Planning Commission? Board of Commissioners, any questions?
Is this on? Yeah. I just wanted to ask if maybe stipulation 2 should be clarified so that it's obvious to all what that meant, because I kind of thought the same thing that the applicant thought, like, what about gas for the lawnmower? What about gas in cars or a company truck or that kind of thing? You know, I don't know. I'd leave it up to you experts to figure that out, but just wanted to mention it.
You could simply say, except for that used in property maintenance.
Yes. That's agreeable.
Our
And-
Planning Commission attorney, would that be acceptable language as far as clarity?
I think it should read, owner-developer agrees that no flammable products will be located on the property. Flammable liquids will be located on the property for business use other than those necessary to maintain the property. And you may even go so far, it'd be up to the applicant to say flammable liquids or explosive gases.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Any other questions from the Board of Commissioners? Did that address your point, Ms. Galloway? All right. At this moment, thank you for your time. You can take your seats. You do have about 7 minutes remaining, if it's required. At this time, I would ask if there's anyone else that wishes to speak on behalf of this application. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak in opposition to the application or may have questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, then at this time, I will entertain a motion with regard to application 2024-02-Z, City of Hiram. And again, if you would consider the stipulations, particularly number 2, and amend it to read, agrees to no flammable liquid or explosive gases except as necessary to maintain property. And you can, not to be located on the property for business use except as to maintain property.
I make a motion to approve with the 3 stipulations, with number 2 being edited to read as you read it.
I have a motion by Mr. Steele, a second by Ms. Fitzgerald. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0 and 1. Again, this will be forwarded to the City of Hiram for a action to be taken at a later date. You will need to contact their zoning administrator to address what date that would be. We have to meet certain advertising requirements by state law, so it does push it through a certain window of time, so please do that. Mr. Robinson?
Okay, next application, 2024-03 SUP application by CGP Acquisition and Development LLC, Ryan O'Donnell, requesting a special use permit for 4 parcels totaling 7.49 acres in B2 Highway Business District for the purpose of establishing a Class A climate-controlled self-storage facility. Property is located in land lots 520, 591, 592. It's District 19, Section 2, south of the intersection of Dallas Ackworth Highway and Royal Sunset Drive. The proposed site address is 8942 Dallas Ackworth Highway. It's in Commission Post 1. Staff has recommended approval with 3 stipulations, and we have received numerous calls, emails, correspondence in opposition to this one, and we've provided that in a backup material. The applicant is present.
The applicant, please come around, sign in, state your name, and address your comments to the chair.
This is 3, did I say 4? 3 parcels.
Good afternoon. My name is Joel Larkin. I'm an attorney with the firm Sams, Larkin & Huff in Marietta, and I appreciate the chance to be here today on behalf of the applicant. As a preface, there seems to be a lot of confusion in the community and in the public about what's being sought here today. Mr. Robinson indicated that there have been numerous calls and questions and concerns, and you'll probably hear there's been an active online petition that purportedly relates to this application. For some reason, the community is of the impression that this applicant is seeking to rezone residential property and enlarge a commercial presence. In fact, the property that we're here about today was part of a zoning for a mixed-use development back in 2004. It was this project that resulted in the Kroger complex being developed, and it resulted in the 111 residential lots that are located to the east of this property. And that's a subdivision, and that's where a lot of the concern has come. In fact, this property that we're here about today is currently Zone B2. And as you're aware, B2 is the most intensive commercial zoning in the Paulding County UDO. So currently, without coming before this board and without seeking any permissions, the applicant could develop this property with any number of uses, automotive uses, repair shops, parking garages, restaurants, with virtually no limitations on hours or the mode and manner of operation. So this is currently an intense commercially zoned property that we're here about today. As it sits on the corner of Royal Sunset and Dallas Ackworth Highway is a new Martin's development that went in recently. This proposed project would be located immediately behind the Martin's development. What is proposed is a Class A climate control self-storage facility. There's been discussion in social media about the applicant wanting to park trailers and boats, and none of that applies to this application. The application specifically relates to internal storage in a secured access controlled building, with limited impact on the surrounding area. As many of you know from your service on this board, climate control self-storage is one of the least intense uses that you can put on a commercial property. If you look at the statistics that are published as it relates to traffic, they have studied traffic counts, and for this type of use, you'll find that the traffic is negligible at best. The one good thing from an investor standpoint about self-storage is people rent them in order to store things in, and most people don't visit their possessions at all. They pay their monthly fee, they sit in their home, and they enjoy the safety and security that their property has in one of these buildings. This applicant has gone to, I think, extraordinary measures to try to make sure that they are an appropriate use for the area. They did have a meeting that they scheduled last week with the occupants and residents of the surrounding area, where they were there to answer questions and to solicit input from the residents. I wasn't at the meeting, but I hear it went fairly well. So we're here today seeking a special use permit to allow completely access-controlled self-storage on an existing commercial property. So hopefully that's what folks are here to talk about today. I do have representatives of the applicant here today who can talk about the specifics of the project, the architecture, and those type of considerations. I did see that the staff has proposed, I believe it was 3 conditions, 2 of them related to traffic and 1 related to the hours of operation. There's a condition that's proposed that said I don't have the wording in front of me, but it essentially says that the hours of operation will be 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and that came from the applicant's letter of intent. The intention was that would be the office hours. We do request that we be allowed to provide access to our customers from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. That would be controlled access. It wouldn't create any disruption or noise. They would simply use an access card to come into the gate and go inside of the building to either deposit or remove property that's in there. I am available to respond to questions, and I do have a representative of the applicant. You want to say a few words?
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Valey, managing partner at Capital Growth Store Guard. Sorry, am I catching the mic okay? Yeah. My name is Mike Valey, and good afternoon. I'm a managing partner at Capital Growth Store Guard and owner of this project. I think Mr. Larkin has covered everything we needed to in the introduction, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I think I will, since you've already alluded to the 3 stipulations and you seem to be agreeable with the 1 consideration regarding customer access from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., we'll keep that in mind depending on what the recommendation from the Planning Commission will be. Now, you mentioned this was not going to be a truck, trailer, RV, boat storage. This was a building for climate-controlled storage is what you're talking about.
Yes, sir, that's correct. And that is part of UDO guidance, of course, that there was no additional outdoor storage for parking, and there will be no roll-up doors on the outside of this building. All the customer access to their units will be interior to the building itself.
Well, would you be willing to stipulate to no outdoor storage, or would that be?
Yes, sir.
Which would include no trailer, boat, truck, RV. Just be clear, it would exclude all of that.
Yes, sir. We would be fine stipulating that there would be no outdoor storage parking, as in intended for boats or RVs or cars. Is that the intent of your question?
Yes. Is there any questions to the applicant from the Planning Commission?
I have a couple for you. Do you, with the overlay district, so you have some architectural requirements and some other things that are needed. Do you have a copy or any schematic or architecturals of the building that we can see?
We do have a conceptual rendering at this point. It is a kind of a first draft, and Mr. Robinson, I don't know if we have the ability to pull that up. We do have a board over here that may help you with an understanding. I apologize, this is relatively small. If we made it much bigger, it would start to get blurry. But yes, it does meet the intent and requirements of the overlay district and the UDO. And as we've discussed with staff already, we have a pretty good understanding of not only what the intent is there, but also with the robust growth in the county these days, there are a lot of good examples of good architecture that we can kind of take some inspiration from, match colors and materials and that sort of thing. And so the intent here is that we would have some brick, we would have some hardy siding, some split face CMU, a mix and match of materials, colors to give a bit of visual interest to the building, break up the facade and that sort of thing. Does that answer your question, sir?
It does, yeah. I just wanted to see what we were, what you were, planning and considering. We could see the site plan, but we just didn't have anything that showed the architectural.
Yes, sir. And again, this is a work in progress, and we go forward with the understanding that we'd be working collaboratively with staff to finalize a design that is acceptable within the UDO.
Okay, thank you.
How many stories is that?
It'd be 4 stories. However, it would be really 3 stories with a basement, and this building would be built sort of into the hillside and down below the grade or the elevation of Highway 92. And so, although it sounds like a tall building, 4 stories, really in effect, because of the grade on the site and the effect of the basement, it would really only appear as about a 1 or 1.5 story building from the roadway, because it would sit down so low.
Well, under the UDO and under current B2 zonings, you have height minimums and height maximums to follow. So
Yes, sir. Understood.
If I may mention one more thing that I neglected, that one of the concerns that folks have up and down this road and really everywhere is traffic. And I did mention that this is a low generator of traffic. But in addition, this project is going to kind of bring to a close one of the stipulations that was created when this mixed-use development was done, and that was that there be an access directly from Royal Sunset Road through these commercial properties and into the Kroger parking lot. So once this is developed, residents of the neighborhood behind this project will be able to come out and go through this property and get to Kroger and that surrounding area without having to go out on Dallas-Ackworth Highway. And that will be part of this project.
and that's part of the construction plans. That'll be part of your permits and your condition for your certificate of occupancy.
Yes, sir.
For that to be completed.
What about the buffer on the east side of it, or you gonna leave it natural buffer, planted buffer? What is your plans on the buffer?
Yes, we will leave as much of the mature natural buffer that is in place as possible. There is a small stream at the bottom of the hill, which has a buffer requirement around it.
Exactly.
And so we have already delineated that stream and mapped a 75-foot buffer around it. There, as you know, at the bottom of the hill and then also along the Royal Sunset Street, there are some mature trees. And so our site plan contemplates leaving those alone. We're meeting the buffer requirements, and those should capture some of those mature trees and underbrush and that sort of thing as a natural screen that's already existing.
And to the extent those are not substantial enough, we'll work with staff with a landscape plan as part of it to try to augment.
On your lot one, your 2-acre tract that's just south of the Martins, do you have any intended uses or any potential clients for that parcel? Do you know what you're going to do with it?
That is intended for future commercial use. It's not nailed down at this point.
Okay.
But those lots are separate from this particular application and project.
Okay.
But it is zone B1, right?
B2.
B2.
It is B2?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Of the 4 parcels, one of them is B1 and 3 of them are B2.
The B1 parcel is the frontage on Royal Sunset, and we're keeping our building out of that.
Okay. Your parking is going in it.
It's a parking,
Okay.
yes, sir.
In reading through the petition that was submitted, and you're right, it's a rather robust petition against the development. Traffic is obviously one of the overriding issues that they're concerned with. You've already addressed that you think that that's a low impact to traffic, wouldn't add that much to it. I can defer to our DOT director for the county to see if he would concur with that. And me personally, I'll say that personally, I don't have a like of storage facilities. I never have. But I do believe in free market economies. I mean, we could apply the same argument to we have too many of them around as we do with too many car washes. I think there's 5 of them in Hiram alone. So I think the concern mostly is about the protection of the neighborhood that you're adjacent to, being able to maintain its residential character. That I did see. The buffer is one way of doing that. Shielding it from the lighting that would be around the facility 24 hours a day, I think would be another concern that I would like to see through at least the plan review process. If this did go forward with a recommendation to approve, that those things be addressed. There are county requirements, development requirements that do address it, but I think that that is probably the overriding factor for the neighbors next door is how it's going to impact the characteristics of their neighborhood. Noise, I don't know that noise has ever been an issue. Again, I'm not a proponent of storage facilities, so I come from that vein. I don't know that noise is one of my concerns whenever I deal with them. But I do see lighting, shielded lighting, things like that can help protect, not, have so much ambient lighting affected or impacting the neighborhood next door. Again, there are development requirements that should address that. Is there anything else that you are looking at as far as the development that would lend itself to protecting the characteristic of the neighborhood next door?
Yes, sir. So, and hear your concerns loud and clear, and that was one of the things that we got from our discussions with the HOA and the neighbors was that, we enjoy a nice, quiet neighborhood. We have kids who live, and play in the streets and that sort of thing. And as a father of 3, I get that. My kids ride bikes in the streets every day too. So if I might, I'll kind of go through your questions and the points one by one. The lighting and the noise, with the building requirements and through the plan review process, will show that any lights that we choose will be downward looking and inward to the site facing, and we'll not have lights that are shining toward the neighborhood. We don't have any use for that, and it certainly is not what they want either, and so we'll be careful to make sure that the lights is adequate for safety, but also pointed inward and downward. The noise, I think, and you may hear from some of the neighbors that the facility next door, the Prime facility, they've had some issues with noise coming out of that facility, and my understanding is that sometimes there are customers who come in there later in the evening and kind of hang out, and they end up making some noise. On our facility, as Mr. Larkin noted, we would be closing our gates, and nobody would be in after 10 p.m. That's when we'd be closed to customers, and the gate would not function at that point, so they'd not be able to get in our gate. And number 2, the Prime facility has units that are storage units that are accessed from the outside, and so those people can hang out in the drive aisles and spend some time in their units. All of our units will be accessed from inside the building, and so we won't have any customers that will be hanging out in the parking lot. It's just you're into the building, into your unit, and then back out and gone. So it's a different design of facility that's more modern and designed to be secure and quiet. The buffer requirement we talked a little bit about with trying to preserve the mature trees. One of the other things that we can do to help with the neighborhood and preserve their safety and quiet nature down there is during our construction period to make sure that our general contractor and their subs are all staying out of the neighborhood. We're not commingling any kind of construction traffic with their normal street traffic. And I know that through our conversations, they've had some challenges with that recently with all the work that's been going on up in that area. We have the ability to tighten up a lot tighter on our contractors and enforce that. And as we've started developing a conversation, a relationship, they have our direct contact numbers. The HOA has my cell phone. And so if there is an issue, I would hope and expect that they would call me directly and we take care of it right away. And it's not the sort of thing where they're stuck looking for an answer and someone to take care of it. Does that help answer some of your questions?
It does. I'll carry on one other perspective. I do see on the schematic here for the outlay of the building, you're planning to actually utilize an existing drive off of Royal Sunset for access to the property. That's going to be your proposal if it goes to plan review?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And as we've had some discussion with DOT, that driveway was originally intended for this cross parcel access. When the Martins was built, that driveway was built entirely on their parcel, and so we would need to use some of it and build probably a little bit more on our parcel to split the property line. But that is something that we've already kind of initiated the discussion of what that access point would look like and how it would function, and fully understand that would get flushed out in detail as we go forward with the project.
I have one other question. Why 4 stories? You understand in case of an emergency situation, the ladder trucks we have in Paulding County is in Dallas or Hiram, which is going to be a long way away if you have a fire in that building. Is it sprinkled? Each individual storage area sprinkled? How is the building going to be designed as far as safety wise? And will there be a person that can get them into that building if there was an emergency?
We would follow all design requirements as far as meeting fire code. Yes, it will be sprinkled. The entire building will have sprinklers. My understanding is that the code would require that each unit has a sprinkler head inside of it. And so, that's part of the standard design. One good part about this is that being built into the slope of the hillside there will actually kind of be 2 ground floor entrances, one that would kind of be close to the office and then one on the back side. So there's kind of split level access, so to speak. So that would help a little bit. We will have an on-site manager in the office. That 8 to 8 office hours that we're requesting, that we would have somebody there on site, but not somebody 24/7. Some of the older facilities have an apartment on site, but that's not what we would be doing here.
Thank you.
Mr. Bailey, does your company primarily just develop storage units, or do y'all do other stuff as well?
Capital Growth StoreGuard is focused almost exclusively on storage, development, and acquisition.
Okay, so if this project doesn't receive a favorable recommendation from this board or approval from the Board of Commissioners, the property owners are probably still going to continue doing something with their property. Do you guys own the property, or are you buying it from someone that's currently under contract?
It is under contract right now, and it's multiple property owners that we have contract on all properties.
Okay. Would y'all pursue something else if it doesn't receive approval? Because Mr. Larkin had stated that, with it being B2 already, there are various uses that it could be, and that list is quite long under B2. Is that something y'all would pursue or not pursue?
We do have other options, so to speak. This is our primary focus and our preferred route. However, there are other things that we could, as with our company, that we are able and willing to entertain there.
Could you share that with us?
It's really kind of conceptual backup plans at this point, but as Mr. Larkin mentioned, the good part for us is that our contingency plan is kind of wide open. There are a lot of different uses that could go there, and we work with a lot of different users, so we would need to kind of regroup and think about what best use would go there. But storage is our focus here.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
I think that's a matter of fact thing. If whether it be a storage unit, it's B2 zone, so
Yeah.
all the uses eligible under B2 are allowed regardless of intensity, unless they, like this, in this case, require an additional SUP. There are plenty of uses that don't require an SUP.
Just anecdotally, Tommy Graham came before you all, may he rest in peace, but he came to you before you all about 5 years ago to try to do a self-storage on Ridge Road, and it was in a similar situation where it had residential behind it. There was significant opposition, worried about crime and noise, the typical, and that was turned down. And now those sites are being actively developed for a liquor store, an O'Reilly's Auto Parts, and there's one more open site. And I hear there's some buyer's remorse, if you will, from that neighborhood.
I think it's gonna be a Wendy's.
So, I mean, those are the kind of uses that could all go here. They tend to be more intense, create more traffic, they have smells, and, so
Okay.
it's worth considering.
Are there any other questions to the applicant from the Planning Commission?
Yeah, I got a question. So with the understanding that it's B2, and again, that plethora list of items that could go in there, we all know that the community is growing, but kind of play off of Chairman Palmer, you go and hire him, you got 5, car washes within, looks like a half-mile radius, it seems like. So reading through the opposition, I also saw a commonality with why self-storage, when you've got additional self-storages kind of around it that don't look like they're to capacity. So to answer that kind of why, what process do you go through, or is there a process that you go through to kind of quantify the fact that a self-storage is actually needed in this area when you have other self-storage areas, close by or close proximity that do not seem to be at capacity, or others that have potential capacity to go into it?
It's a great question, and first of all, self-storage is what I do. It's what we do every day, and I have done for the last 5 years. And we go through a very robust market analysis and feasibility study period before we ever bring forward an application. And so we've been working on this site for well over a year and have looked at all the competition that's out there. We have looked at all the residential growth that is happening and looked at all the market dynamics and projected out a 10-year business plan effectively. And I know there is a little bit of concern because there's the Prime facility next door. Rock Solid is over across the street. One of the things that I think is important for folks to understand is the self-storage industry is unique in that a new facility such as this one will take 3 or 4 years to fill up. And we know that, and we plan for that. And so the other piece of it that's interesting is that it rarely will you find a storage facility that runs at 100% occupancy. It just doesn't happen. There's a natural turnover. Really, a stabilized occupancy is around 90 or 92% occupancy. And so if it's going to take 3 or 4 years for us to get to 90, 92%, we plan that into all of our budgets and accounting and all the pro formas we build out. And so we understand that, and we're prepared for that, and we're expecting that. And I know there's been a little bit of consternation that the other storage facilities in the county are not at 100% occupancy. We know that, and we also have monitored their occupancy and how well they have done. Well enough that, for example, Rock Solid built an expansion. They saw the market demand. They built an expansion, and it's in the process of filling up. The Compass storage facility over on Seven Hills Connector It opened this past September. They've been open less than 6 months, and their trajectory to fill up that 3 or 4 year period is going at double the pace of what we as industry experts would normally expect. And so as we look at all these market dynamics, we know full well that not everybody is 100% full, but the market growth, there's obviously a lot of residential growth out here and small business growth. As the previous applicant, like 20 to 25% of our customers are actually small business owners, small businesses that use the space for inventory and things like that. So the market dynamics are very favorable, and quite frankly, you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, free market economics. We wouldn't come and try to invest well over $10 million in this site if we didn't believe in this project and have a really good plan to make it work in the long term. So I hope that's kind of a long answer to your question, but I hope that sort of clarifies the way we see the market and why we're asking for this project.
Any other questions from the Planning Commission? Board of Commissioners, any questions?
Can you hear me? No?
Barely.
How about now?
There you go.
On your site drawing, CP11, Lot 1 is broken out into a 2-acre tract. This may be a Chris question. Is the special use going to apply to that Lot 1? Or have they been parceled separately?
There's 2 out parcels out front that the special use, in our understanding, will not apply to, and it's not our intention to use them for self-storage.
So the special use is not intended for Lot 1, is that correct?
I'm not looking at the plat, but if it's those 2 lots in front, the ones on the other side of that through road. The self-storage is going to be east of that road that goes through to connect, and the SUP will only apply on the east side. So on the west side, we had anticipated 2 different commercial lots that are being marketed.
Okay. Does that need to be clarified, Chris? Because it looks like on the overall site drawings, it looks like it's applied to the whole parcel.
There could be a stipulation that could be added that the owner developer agrees to remove Lot 1, which is shown on the site plan as 2 acres, from the SUP proposal, or proposed SUP.
And Commissioner, I understand the intent behind the question there. One of the things that comes into play here is that we do have 4 separate parcels that sort of run page west to east. And as this development contemplates, those would be combined. And so the ultimate site plan of where this really finally lands is not finalized yet. I think that we're probably okay with removing the Lot 1 area from the SUP, but as it's very distinctly drawn right here, I'm not sure that we have the final layout quite yet. I think that we would be okay with stipulating that it goes in the back. The storage goes in the back. Is there a good way to do that?
Perhaps that's something that we could talk about between now and the Board of Commission vote as far as exactly how we would clarify. Because the purpose and intent here is that the self-storage be on the east side of that through road.
Sure.
Exact location of that through road and the exact dimensions may be up to engineering a little bit.
Well, if there's going to be a different use on Lot 1, I think it does need to be clarified. So. And then also another question for you, Chris. Is this, if my memory serves me, this is in an overlay district, is that correct?
That is correct. It's in the corridor overlay district, which sets landscaping and requirements as well as building material requirements. Also requires lighting to be shielded or boxed.
And Commissioner Dunn, the prior conditions from the larger zoning also remain in effect, and there's stipulations that specifically relate to the architecture and the lighting that roughly track the corridor overlay requirements.
Yeah. And George, this may be a question for you on the Highway 92 widening. Is there going to be sidewalk connectivity on this side of Highway 92? Wasn't me.
There is. It's shown on the plans, but I'll confirm what the width is.
And then part of this project, if I understand it, would be sidewalk connectivity from the intersection of Royal Sunset and Highway 92.
Okay. If you'd like to speak, I would need you to come up, sign in, state your name. That's okay. Well, we might pull you up in just a moment.
One of the
Mr. Dunn?
stipulations in the original zoning was for sidewalk connectivity.
Okay, thank you.
Is that sidewalk just up Royal Sunset, or does it go down the access road to Kroger as well?
Chris.
I believe the way it was worded was just on Royal Sunset, and I think there was a term of connectivity, it said from the subdivision to Kroger. So again, I think it's the interpretation of the language in the stipulations.
Mr. Bailey, be opposed to adding the stipulation for sidewalk down the access road connecting Royal Sunset to Kroger?
I think we would probably have room for that. We'd be happy to explore it, yeah.
Okay.
Board of Commissioners, any further questions? This time, thank you. You can take your seat. You do have a few minutes remaining. Again, and I may have been remiss at the beginning of the meeting. Any questions from the Planning Commission or the Board of Commissioners do not account against either side's time. So let me just state that for the record. Right now, I'd ask, is there anyone else that wishes to speak on behalf of this application? And I'll state it again, on behalf of. Okay, please come forward. Sign in, state your name, and address your comments to me.
Hello, my name is Stephen McCampbell, and I am the broker that's handling the property for the sellers. I've had this property listed for a long time. There's a lot of topo constraints in the back that have caused a lot of issues for marketing. So this is really a perfect use for that because it drops down and allows it to someone to use the back of that property. We've been under contract at least 20, 25 times probably in the last, since 2016. And every one of those have come up to the no-build area that was where the easement went from Kroger to Royal Sunset. There was a no-build area back there, and it was impacting everything. So until we can get a use for that back part, it might not likely ever get developed for anything else. Because Max and Carol just won't sell their property. They won't sell the front from the back. They want to sell it all together. So it's either a package deal or nothing with them. I do know that self-storage facilities probably might have, 10, 15 cars maximum a day come in and out. If you go to most of them and you look at a climate-controlled self-storage, you guys are looking at the traditional roll-ups where, I used to be in construction. I used to do flooring, and we used to have 2 units out of there. We kept a forklift, and we'd get our pallets of tile and move it around and everything else. So a lot of concerns that they're hearing are probably what they're thinking of the more traditional public storage systems where, you got people, like they say, working outside and talking all hours and everything else. These more climate controlled, they're more intact. You're not going to see and hear a lot from there. I was speaking with Monique Sheffield from Cobb Park in Cobb. She is a commissioner in Cobb. And we're sitting there talking about a self-storage place for U-Haul wanted to come at the corner of Barrett Parkway and Powder Springs Road. She turned it down for that, but as we were sitting there talking about it, I'm sitting there looking at a self-storage place next to the Dunkin' Donuts. Not one car came in there for the 2.5 hours we were there, not one. It's just like it's really quiet, for the most part. You don't see a lot of traffic coming in and out. And you were talking about other uses. we have had a lot of other uses. We've had car wash, we've had liquor stores, we've had just about everything that you don't want there, you know, and I just don't know what you're going to get on that property on the back that's going to be able to help itself. As far as the height goes, Kroger has height restrictions. They can't pass a certain height because Kroger control, there's a lot of restrictions on that property from Kroger. You can't put a drugstore, you can't put a gas station, you can't put any obnoxious uses, you can't do a lot of things. You can't put a daycare, you can't do a lot of things on there from Kroger. So you're limited to the uses that can go there because of the restrictions from Kroger as well. So I've worked it a long time. I've been underneath contract many a time. DOT, by the way, is going to have a 10-foot multi-purpose walkway. I did the DOT take with that, and it's going to go supposedly all the way to Cobb Parkway eventually. But it's going to have a big multi-purpose walkway on that side of State Route 92, on the Kroger side. So they took 30 feet over, you know, from oil. What the concerned citizens in the back of the neighborhood should be concerned about would be how they're going to get out of their neighborhood when they push them even further back and more traffic is coming through as it grows. They needed a red light there. I requested their, I called and tried to get a hold of their neighborhood, you know, association to see if I could get anybody to come up with us and join in on that, but I didn't get much action from them. You know, that access there is going to be horrible moving forward. And it's nothing to do with the 15, 20 cars, and it's a fraction of, I mean, a fraction of what you're going to see from Martin's. You know, Martin's is so busy in the mornings. It's going to have issues selling that property. You know, the topo mainly in the back, and then the restrictions from Kroger, it just limits a lot of things. If y'all got any questions for me, I'd be more than happy to help you. All I can tell you is it's going to be very hard to sell that property and do anything with it. I think the plan that you have, as far as being up front, generically, I can tell you there's a plan to be a bank up front. I'm not sure what the other one is going to be. But it has nothing to do with the public storage up front. I think they might want a little bit of visibility from 92, maybe. So they may have a small strip that would provide maybe access and visibility to their facility from there. But other than that, I really don't know. There's so many other uses that we could put on there that would be so much more obnoxious than this use. And with the, you know, either that or just never see it developed, you know. I'm sure Max and Carol's kids will eventually do something with it one day when they're gone. But, you know, it's going to remain that way for a long time. Like I said, that back part has been a pain in every single contract we've had. Every restaurant that you've seen go over there and every place you've seen go over there has approached Max and Carol, and the back part of that property has kept them from selling it every time. From Popeyes to whatever you see over there. They've all wanted to go on that property first. The car wash across the street wanted to go there. We didn't want them to go there because we didn't want to do that to the subdivision. They should be thanking us. We could have probably did a lot worse for them over there, you know. That's a lot more obnoxious use than what they got across the street, you know.
All right.
I don't know what y'all want from the sellers. They have the right, it's zone B2, which is the most intensive, as you guys said, zoning node in Paulding County. And then B1's front on down Royal Sunset. So it should allow for it. It's not that intense a use. It's going to be ultimately friendly, a lot more friendly than some of the other uses around. I mean, like you said, people are sick of car washes, but like they said, boats and trailers. That's because the one that's next door to them across Royal Sunset, that's an older one. People park their boats, their RVs. You know, I asked Max and Carol, I said, has this ever bothered you guys living here? He goes, no. They ain't never bothered us one bit. And I was like, all right. And they're an older couple.
Just 2 minutes remaining.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So if y'all got any questions for me,
I've got it.
I'd be more than happy to answer them. Height, traffic, anything like that y'all got, uses, I'd be more than happy to answer.
I've got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Since you're the broker and you've been working on this for a while, the interparcel access. So Martin's owns the corner.
Yes.
And Max and Carol or other property owners own the rest. Do y'all have any kind of agreements or maintenance agreements set up for?
No, Martin's actually, if you look, Martin's actually threw a slope easement onto Max and Carol.
And do you have an easement?
No, they don't.
Is there no
There is not for Martin's, no. Max and Carol have one going through, but they own all the other property now, so going through, so they would, of course, own that through. But Martin's, their parking lot, I know that I called Paulding County several times. I think I might even talk to Chris's office. that they put an illegal slope to hold their parking lot in on Max and Carroll's property. If you look at it, you can clearly see that was not planned. They used a temporary construction easement and stuff like that to get their access for their sewer. And when they went back, they put a slope easement on us that wasn't planned.
Have you, as the broker, worked or spoke with Martin's corporate?
Yes,
about
I talked
different
with,
things?
John Molander was in charge of it back then. And I talked to John, and when I talked to him about that, he told me to talk to his attorneys. And I was like, well, I will, but if it's going under contract, I just figured a developer might work with them. Because that developer, you know, they could just go in, or even Max and Carroll for that matter, they could just go in there and hack that whole corner of that parking lot off and it would be exposed. If they wanted to, they could. That's their land, that's their dirt, they can do what they want. They don't have an easement. So they're just trying to be friendly, Max and Carroll. And we could have put a lot more worse things on there than this.
I think
That's for sure.
We've established that, I think,
Yeah.
so.
Trying to be friendly.
How's he
I
at?
get it, I get it.
Yeah, I think, I have a question going back to Mr. Bailey, but probably more of a better question for Mr. Larkin, sorry. Sorry, Joel. Joel, got a second?
Mr. Larkin, would you come back to the microphone?
Sorry. But any questions y'all have about that, I'd be more than happy to answer for you.
Thank you for your time.
Sure.
So to the same question, there is a void between the end of the access on Martin's piece and your client's piece. Have y'all spoken with Martin's? Is there an easement? I mean, is there going to be any issues obtaining access, or do y'all know yet?
We've had some discussions with them. We don't anticipate a problem. The zoning conditions that were adopted back in 2004 specifically call for a 3-lane drive through there with a continuous left turn lane. I think it's Martin's has, from what I understand, built 2 of the 3 lanes. So we will be talking with them further, but we don't anticipate it'll be a problem. You wanna-
Yeah, and sorry to interrupt you, Joel.
Yeah.
Indeed, we have talked with Martin's, and there is a perpetual access easement in place
Okay.
between the parcels.
What about a interparcel agreement for maintenance? I mean, we do travel various connectivity roads in Hiram, in front
Oh,
of
don't call that out.
Home Depot or whatnot. You'll see potholes, you'll see maintenance. Well, those are not county maintained roads, so that's why the county doesn't do it. They're owned by individuals or corporations. Do y'all have something that you're gonna put in place for that, to maintain that? Because you are gonna get considerable traffic just cutting through. You know, if traffic backs up on 92, I think everybody in the audience probably would attest to it as well. People are gonna cut through there.
We do expect that there would be a cost-sharing agreement on maintenance for that road put in place before this is all over with.
I agree with you.
Toll Road?
Right. Yeah.
It's a good plan.
All right. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak on behalf of the application? There are 3 minutes remaining.
I'll be quick.
That's quite all right, just making sure you know.
My name is Jeff Morgan. I'm with Compass Building Systems out of Powder Springs. And I keep hearing about the negatives, and I think these gentlemen are correct about the noise, the traffic, the lights. I've been doing this for 30 years, and full disclosure, I've never met these guys. So it's totally independent. I just want to bring up a positive that a lot of people don't think about. I've worked for DBCI and Janus, which are in Douglasville. There's a door and hallway company in Ackworth. There are quite a few people in the self-storage industry that live in this area. And it just helps the people in the self-storage industry as well. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak on behalf of the application? At this time, is there anybody wishing to speak in opposition or may have questions, comments, or concerns? I would ask you to come to the lectern, sign in, state your name, and address your comments to the chair.
Good afternoon. My name is Rhonda Gable. I am speaking to the letter of intent from Ryan O'Donnell requesting a special use permit to establish a climate-controlled storage facility at 8942 Dallas Ackworth Highway in Dallas, Georgia. Also, we have, over the course of the last week or so, a little less confusion about what the outdoor area is supposed to be for. We realize it's not being rezoned, and also we have over 160 properties there in Rosewood Park. As a homeowner in the adjoining community of Rosewood Park, along with others, signers of the petition that you all received, many of our neighbors couldn't be here today due to the timing of this meeting during the workday, unfortunately. I am against the approval of the special use permit. There's no reason for a 150,000 square foot building to be constructed directly in front of our subdivision or in the Crossroads area. There are 3 different storage facilities in this area that are not to capacity. This facility can be built further down Highway 92 or on Hiram Ackworth Highway, where there are 3 other facilities that are not climate controlled. I was able to get a hold of 2 of them, but there are 3 in the Hope area. Crossroads is already a commercially overcrowded area where traffic, as we all know, is commonly at a standstill. Additionally, this company wants to start construction before the completion of the construction of Highway 92. This will make it nearly impossible to travel in and out of our subdivision, as currently the only access road to that plot is on our community access road, Royal Sunset Drive. Literally, as I was researching the industry standards this morning, our internet went down. This has been a frequent occurrence during the Highway 92 construction, along with power and water outages, and would be worse with more construction, not to mention the traffic on our access highway of trucks and employee parking as they are building this. The letter of intent in paragraph 2 states there are 2 storage facilities in the general area, which shows there is a demand for the facilities. Actually, there are 3 storage facilities within a 3-mile radius, which is the industry standard when evaluating self-storage acquisition or building. Using the numbers provided by Brent Carpenter, who wrote a letter, he's the owner of the Rock Solid Storage, which is across the street and 1 block away to the west, the current storage capacity in this 3-mile radius is 301,000 square feet. Divided by capita, which is estimated using the 2015, 2020, and an estimated 2025 census, is at 36,000. This gives us 8.36 square feet per person. This is what you would want to see. Market equilibrium is from 6 to 8 square feet per person. With that said, Rock Solid is only at 42% occupancy, and Compass is only at 25% occupancy. Prime Storage, I don't know. I was not able to get a hold of them this morning, but they're literally across the street to the north of this proposed facility. So not only is it at equilibrium, there is availability. Now, add a 90,000 or more square foot facility in the same area. This puts the availability at 11.86 square feet per person. According to all of the websites that I visited in the industry, this would be considered oversupplied, especially with the current availability. This is soft demand, and after doing the research, I was kind of wondering why they actually picked this lot. All the homes around here are single-family homes with cars and garages, and some of them have basements and attics. Anyway, with there not being a market, plus you have a 2-acre lot that we do not know what's two lots, one of being 2 acres that we do not know what's going to go on there. In Friday's meeting, actually, it was mentioned about the buffer, and they said that they hope they could save the trees between the plot and our subdivision, but it would take 40 years to actually replace those trees. As the accessibility of our community has become more difficult with the construction on Dallas Highway, to the point of being blocked by heavy equipment with no flagger, any worker parking, heavy equipment, and trucks parked on our access road will only increase the difficulty. According to the aerial view, there is an access road that will be built between Royal Sunset Drive and the Kroger parking lot, but we do not know when this will happen. It does seem to be a positive thing, but I can only imagine the number of people who, once they find out that is there, they will use that as an access road to get to 92 from the Kroger parking lot. Therefore, again, putting more traffic on our subdivision access road. Also, Amazing Tales has moved from the strip mall to directly, it's a dog grooming company. They have moved directly across from our subdivision, Sunset Drive. There is a left turn coming from the north into our subdivision access. There are people now coming down the road and there's no left turn into, and there have been nearly head-on collisions for this. So expansion before infrastructure, yeah. We'd rather have the infrastructure first. Also, the proposed aerial overlay, a parking lot is located at the front of the building. If this request is passed, maybe the front parking lot needs to be built up 5 to 10 feet with a retaining wall and trees and bushes on the side of Royal Sunset Drive. Right now, our community already must look at Martin's parking lot on the way into our community, and now we'll have to look at a second parking lot right next to our sign. These are only a few of the concerns we as residents of Rosewood Park have. There are too many unknowns that could have a huge impact on our subdivision, our home values, and the Crossroads area. Please leave some green space in our Crossroads area and in front of our lovely subdivision. How about a park? That would be great. I moved to Paulding to escape the continuous building in Cobb, but now it's in Paulding also. This huge storage facility is not supported by the market, does not fit the aesthetics of the Crossroads community, and will decrease our home values. I only need to ask if any of the members would allow this to be built in front of their subdivision. And hopefully you've driven by this area to see what it would cause for our homeowners. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Gable.
I'd like to ask the pastor a question, please. You know, I understand your opposition to it, and I completely agree. I do understand. But if this were to fail, do you think your subdivision would come together and buy this property, keep it from ever being developed from the property owner?
I can't answer that. I don't know what people's financial resources are.
That would be the only way you could do it to, you know, prevent anything from going on it, because they actually own their property just like you do.
Absolutely.
I just wanted you to understand that.
Absolutely. We understand that. We know this might be the lesser of several evils, but there are some things that are going to happen along with this, whereas, you know, people can say one thing, but it doesn't always happen. So we just want the best for our community.
I do understand.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hello, gentlemen, ladies. I am Andy Rose. I'm a resident. Up until the beginning of this year, I was the former HOA president. And I headed up a group of actually more homeowners that wanted to go against the Martins being built, but that had already started well before we were aware of what was going on there, because that happened during the global illness. So some of the concerns that we had were answered last week when we met with these two gentlemen. I know Mike wasn't able to be there. But some of the concerns I had, and I think some of the homeowners had, were dispelled, especially with, you know, the outside noise. There is noise. The Max and all them, they may not be able to hear the noise of the other one, but when you're down in that valley, this actually, like he mentioned, the topography is bad. That's why this, okay, I'm also an agent, okay? So this is probably the highest and best use, and that's something that you look at, especially in the commercial world. Highest and best use for this land is possibly this. I can't think of anything else other than that, except for maybe a 55 and older community, which are popping up everywhere. But there again, I think that was that under contract before?
If you would direct your comments to me, please.
Okay, I think that was under contract before for a possibility. So our concern that I brought up with them was the aesthetics. And the aesthetics go into what I think is the value that we could lose in our properties with having another storage facility in front of it. Granted, this one is an inside unit. She just went over all the details of the occupancy or lack of in the other ones. But my problem is the values. We've struggled with values going up like some of the other neighborhoods because we're not growing there residentially. We're not. He said there's a ton of commercialization going on right there in front of us. So if that's obviously right there, you know, I would want to ask to have more vegetation, more trees in front of it, along Royal Sunset, along that sidewalk that they're supposed to put in, so that it at least hides or looks better with the maintained property of trees. That would also help shield from lights. It would also help shield from any kind of noise, even though it would be low noise. Another concern, and I think you brought it up, was the traffic going from Kroger to Royal Sunset to get out on 92. Until there's a light right there, and I know this county and our neighborhood have been fighting to get a light right there, and the state won't do it. But if people start cutting through on Friday traffic, it's going to be crazy going through there. That's really a concern that I have, the safety right there. People already are driving like crazy up and down Royal Sunset, right there to get into and out of the Martins. It's been hit and cut off multiple times because everybody thinks when you're coming in, you're turning into Martins. They forget there's a whole neighborhood back there of 160-something homes that people live in.
Okay.
So.
Can I ask a question of Andy?
Sure.
So you and I know each other?
Yeah.
We both do the same thing. If you're listing a house in your neighborhood, do you explain to people who are potential buyers that all of this was done as a master plan at one time and that this was going to be developed at some point or had the potential? I mean, not knowing what it's going to be because of the B2 and that it could be anything. The special use is because of the type of use, so what they're looking for. I know the HOA can't buy the property. I mean,
No.
you're fine. You were the president. Y'all, I've ran them. We have them. You don't have that type of money for what this was probably demanding per acre. But something is going to go here, and this is what we look at to see what might be, you know, what might end up here. So, you know, we're just following guidelines, and we are a recommending body. So, but I'm just curious if you know, for you as an agent, when you show some of your neighbors, I mean, do you inform them that, hey, this is going to be something? I think everybody probably knew because this was built. The neighborhood was built in 04.
07.
07?
Yeah, it started, I think, in 05, 06 or something.
Yeah, the plans. And then you guys, have y'all been there the entire time?
A
You and
couple
Stephanie?
weeks, we'll be there in 9 years.
Okay. It's just kind of a point. I mean, I guess there really wasn't a question other
So
than.
I currently have a listing in there, and it was a bit slow for a while. Some of it's the market, the time of year, that roller coaster that we normally ride. But I want to say that there were, with all the construction right there, it's obvious, and I think that was one of the feedback that we got. I'd have to go back and check. Some of the feedback was, when you're going out of there, it's hard to make a left-hand turn. And I know that's not part of this, but that could be made worse by having this facility there. And I'll admit, it's not my first choice of having something there, but it could be the highest and best use.
I don't disagree with you that it could be made worse by having that facility, but I would change the wording to any facility. I mean, any commercial aspect or utilization of this property could intensify or cause to be more problematic getting in and out. My question, though, is, again, if you're not interested in, I'm not asking the neighborhood to accept it, and I'm not generally for them, like I said. But if not this, what else could go there? If I lived there, that would be my concern.
And that is a concern of mine. Like, if this doesn't go, what else could go there? What else will go there? I mean, I joked with the guys last Thursday about putting that two acre parcel up front is putting a Chick-fil-A there. Chick-fil-A's add property value to residential properties that they're near. They do. Within a mile of them, they increase the value. Do I want that there? My kids love Chick-fil-A. I like it too, but traffic? Heck no.
I agree.
So.
And I agree with you. As far as the traffic, I do understand because I do try to get through there on 92, and when it takes you sometimes 40 minutes to get from that intersection to Highway 41, it's bad. There's no other way to put it. Hopefully it'll be alleviated by the widening of 92, but right now y'all got a serious traffic problem, but there's nothing else that could be put there that would alleviate that traffic.
Yeah,
I'm not for storage units. You know, I don't need one, never used one. But the fact is, what is the best use of the property? And that's what we have to look to as a recommending board. And I hope, you know, your residents understand that.
Some will, some won't. I have talked to a couple that agree that this is because of the low traffic nature of this type of property, that they're okay with it. They'd rather that than something that's going to be busier, more storefront, large storefront. Obviously, there's things that could be much noisier. Honestly, I the storage units up until last year, I had 2 of them, and I got rid of them. You know what most of it was? Trash. And as an agent, I tell people, don't move your trash with you, throw it away. That way you don't need a storage unit. But that's another subject.
Thank you for your input.
All right, thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition or may have questions, comments, or concerns? Please sign in, state your name, and address your comments to the chair. There is about 5 minutes remaining.
All right, I'm Jennifer Sersall, and I'm actually the HOA secretary for the subdivision, and I just want to
I'm sorry, you said Sersall?
Sersall.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm the HOA secretary for the subdivision, and I want to reiterate that the subdivision has been talking to Georgia DOT, Paulding DOT, the state about the traffic. We've never ignored anyone on a HOA basis. Everything else that everyone's already voiced the concerns of the residents. Now, I have a little bit more specific concern. I'm the second house in the subdivision. Right now, if you look out my back window, you see a storage unit. This way, you're gonna look out my front windows, you're gonna see a storage unit. So for my house, I'll have nothing but storage units on both sides. So I appreciate how they've met with us, and I would hope that if this is approved, that they will put something up on Royal Sunset so that outside my house is not a storage unit, a view. The other thing is when we met with them, the hours of 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. were what was stated, but now I heard them say 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. My house is right there, and I understand that these are, low use and low traffic, but it's still 6 a.m. in the morning. I have kids woken up by the garbage truck at Martin's. I have kids woken up at 4 a.m. at the storage area behind us, and of course that's outdoor stuff. But it's just, do we really want that next to us? But on the flip side, we realize that that might be the best use. So we hope that despite everything, whether it's approved or not, that we can have a good relationship with the developer and be able to discuss these things. And my final thing is, as everyone else has said, if you were in our shoes, without worrying about who might buy the land, would you want a storage unit out of both sides of your house?
Thank you.
That's it.
2 minutes remaining. Does anyone else wish to speak in opposition or have questions, comments, or concerns regarding this application? Hearing none. Time for the applicant or the presenter of the application, that has expired. This time I would ask the commission, do you have any questions to staff? Or do you have any redirects you want to ask?
I have a question. Noise ordinance. Who is going to know the noise ordinance? Speaking of 6 to 10, I mean,
I'll have to look it up, but I'll give it a try.
Well, while you're looking it up, you want to do that now?
I believe it's till 11 o'clock.
There was from Mr. Rose, I think there was a concern mentioned about the appearance and aesthetics. That was one of the things that concerned him, was maintenance of the neighborhood. I do know that it was alluded to by Mr. Robinson that this property does fall into the corridor overlay district, which has an enhanced requirement for the aesthetic of the building. as well as a landscaping requirement for the property itself, because it is in the corridor overlay. So I'm not trying to tell you that to make you like it or anything, just that is there. I just want to let you know, as a matter of fact, they will be held to a higher standard on the landscaping of the property, as well as the aesthetics of the building, so that it should be, what was the term you used to use? I think it was harmonious to the surrounding developments, as far as its look, appearance, the color of the facility, and the like. Additionally, because it is adjacent to a residential property, the buffer requirements between the commercial and the residential property is more substantial than if it were adjacent to another commercial piece. So that's why there's less of a concern between, say, the Martins and this property versus this property and the residential neighborhood. So I would expect that a planted buffer, non-disturbance buffer would remain in place. I don't think that that would be relented on the, during plan review if this were to go forward. The staff at Paulding County does a very good job reviewing these things. Think that would be one of the top concerns too, is maintaining peace, with the neighborhood next door to the degree that's possible. So at this time,
Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
Phillips.
So generally, the general prohibition in the noise ordinance is that whatever the noise is, it can't become a nuisance. More specific, when you get into music, loud voices, things like that, that is a restriction from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. There are other things that have other times, but that's probably what most people think about when they think about the times of the noise ordinance.
Okay.
And then, Mr. Robinson, on the buffer, from this parcel to the subdivision to the east, can you tell us what that buffer is, or if we missed it earlier? Undisturbed?
It's a
disturbed?
minimum of 40 feet,
Undisturbed?
undisturbed.
Okay.
Plus you have a small stream in the middle portion, central portion of the tract.
Which requires an
They
undisturbed
would
buffer
require
too.
additional buffer.
Okay.
And there is requirements for landscaping along Royal Sunset Drive.
Okay.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the planning commission to the staff?
I have a question for Commissioner Dunn. Do you want to exclude the Lot 1 from this OCP with a question that you had?
I would feel better about it. I think it needs to be clarified, especially from the homeowner's perspective, so that they got some clarity on that the SUP does not apply to those two sites. You guys amenable to that?
Yes, sir.
And can I ask another question, Jody?
Yes, sir.
Looking at the site plan again, I actually went to the meeting with these guys the other night. We've obviously got a low area, wet area behind the facility back here. The retention pond area, it's gonna require a fence of some kind, right?
Yes, sir.
I believe, Chris, I don't know the answer to this. Can you clarify? In the overlay district, is there an enhanced fence?
What we normally require in the overlay district, or any pond that's visible out there, is it's a 4-foot chain link, but we always ask for black vinyl.
Black vinyl chain link fence, okay.
Any other questions from the Board of Commissioners?
No, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Roger.
I have one more question,
Yes, sir.
and this would be to the applicant. The discussion of 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. that you asked for?
Yes, sir. And the
Can you explain why you need 6 a.m.?
Of course. So the request for 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. operational hours is to accommodate customers and small businesses that cannot otherwise come during the middle of the day during kind of normal business hours. If you think of the intensity of use, think of it as a bell curve, where at the early morning hours and the late night hours, we see very, very minimal traffic. It's really just to accommodate those folks who can't be there any other time. Because the reality is, none of us want to go to a storage unit at 6 a.m. I know I don't. So the office hours of having someone there on site to help and accommodate those folks, of 8 to 8, more typical. But those tails are really just to accommodate the folks who can't make it during the normal business hours. And a quick side note, there would be gated access to get to the building and then at the side of the building, a keypad to get into the building. So redundant access control, as well as security cameras monitoring while people are not there, or attendants are not there.
Good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And they would still be subject to the noise ordinance. You know, granting those hours would not waive the noise ordinance.
Any further questions from the Planning Commission? Okay, at this time, I will entertain a motion with regard to application 2024-03-SUP. Just to go over, we've had a request from a commissioner to exclude Lot 1 from the SUP application. And then we've had a request from the applicant to create operation hours between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. Currently, it's saying operation between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. We have a potential fourth stipulation added that was agreed to by the applicant of no outdoor storage parking. Have I encapsulated all of that? Anybody?
Sir, I think you stated 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., and I think you intended to say 10 p.m.
Oh, 10 p.m., I'm sorry. Yes.
Thank you.
Couldn't read my own handwriting. All right, so again, do I need to recap, or is anybody willing to give the motion a go as to whether or not it's a motion to approve or deny? If approved, then with what stipulations? Also, the exclusion of Lot 1, if that's your position.
I'll give it a try. I'll make a motion to approve with the following stipulations. Number 1, owner developer agrees to the hours of operation between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m., 7 days a week. Owner developer number 2 agrees access to development shall be determined during plan review process. Stipulation number 3, owner developer agrees to provide a traffic study for the development and to coordinate with the Paulding County DOT on methodology and parameters of the study. Going to add stipulation number 4, that there will be no outside storage for boats, RVs, or automobiles. Stipulation number 5, going to add owner developer acknowledges that any out parcels as shown on plan submitted to this commission labeled Lot 1 of approximately 2 acres does not fall under the SUP. And I'm going to add number 6, that the developer agrees that the interparcel access road be complete before the certificate of occupancy for the building with sidewalk connecting Royal Sunset to the Kroger parking lot.
State that sixth one again.
Owner developer agrees that the interparcel access road connecting Royal Sunset to the Kroger parking lot be built and completed and open prior to the issuance of their certificate of occupancy and include a sidewalk connecting the two.
I am not going to recap that motion. I'm just going to say the motion made by Mr. Steele, understanding that we're talking about 3 additional stipulations. Last one being the requiring a CO to be held until the interparcel access road and sidewalk adjacent to the property and the Martins has been completed.
That's correct.
So with that understanding, anyone wishing to second?
Second.
I have a second from Mr. Callahan. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes 3-1 and 1. You give me just 1 second. Yes, sir.
Can you restate what the vote was? You said 3-1 and 1.
3-1 and, well, I'm sorry. 4, 1, and 1. My apologies.
Vote cast against
Was Mr. Leggett. You got me on spelling and basic math today, so here we go. All right, this application will be forwarded to the Board of Commissioners meeting that will be held on March 12th at 2 p.m. Applicant must be present for it to be considered, or the applicant's agent. Again, if you have an interest, recommend that you would be there as well if you can. We're going to move on to the next application. We have a request to adjourn for 5 minutes. Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn for 5 minutes?
I'll make a motion to adjourn for 5 minutes.
Mr. Wicks, Mr. Steele, all in favor? Motion passes 5-0 and 1. That's not on my agenda to annotate. The green light on out in the corridor, just make sure everybody knows, sound the tone. Well, it's a lot louder with the mic on. Are we going to have more of the commissioners join us, or Mr. Baker? I don't want to start without them if they want to be here. Okay. First time that's happened, I hit the gavel and everybody left. Scared them. Got to work on that. Do I need to wait? Okay. It's been 5 minutes. There we go. Thank you, Jason. I'm blaming you. Mr. Robinson, do you want to introduce the next applicant?
Absolutely. Last application of the day is 2024-11Z, application by Lead Engineering requesting to rezone 19.41 acres from R2 Suburban Residential District to B1 General Business District for development and construction of a commercial gym and retail/office space. Properties are located in land lot 403, 462, District 3, Section 3. It's on the south side of Cedar Crest Road, east of Harmony Grove Church Road, and it's in Commission Post 4. It's recommended approval with 7 printed stipulations. The applicant is present.
The applicant will please come around, sign in, state your name, and address your comments to the chair. Mr. Carmichael, I'd sit down and make the late ones work for it.
Good afternoon, Planning Commission, Board of Commissioners, staff, and public. My name is Jonathan Jones. I'm with the Lead Engineering. I'm here representing the proposed rezoning of a little bit less than 20 acres of land located on Cedar Crest Road. Kind of refresh your memory, maybe a year or so ago, I brought in the adjacent property and rezoned it for a gas station and climate control warehouse and some office warehouse. And we've also, my client's also been working hand in hand with the Paulding County DOT to trade out some land and construction costs to take Harmony Grove Church and extend it all the way down to the new school. So this property is going to be an addition to that original zoning, making it basically a 30-acre commercial rezoning as a whole. The anchor tenant proposed for this particular 19.4 acres is a high-end gym, like an LA Fitness type gym, but it's not LA Fitness. 40,000 square foot, and it will be centrally located inside that B1 proposed zoning if approved. Around it will be out parcels for retail, restaurant, commercial uses. In the back, there'll likely be some office, warehouse type stuff for retail businesses and offices as well. Interparcel connectivity to the new Harmony Grove extension is intended to occur. We are also going to try to work with Paulding County DOT for a secondary ride-in, ride-out access point along Cedar Crest. The property does meet the future land use map. It is in conformance with the comprehensive plan. Staff has recommended approval, and my client has reviewed the 8 zoning stipulation and is in agreement with it. And I'll be happy to answer any additional questions that anybody has or use the remainder of my time for rebuttal.
Just to restate, you have, or go ahead and state the 8 stipulations that are listed here?
Yes, sir.
You're good with those?
They've reviewed them and are in agreement with them.
Mr. Chairman, if you'll notice on those 8 original stipulations that number 1 and number 2 are duplicates. So technically, there's 7 stipulations.
All right. That just gives us room to add more.
Yeah, so is 3 and 4. You're just covering the bases real good, Chris, just real good.
Just a little off topic on that, but the property that you've assembled for this rezoning, what's the topography once you leave Cedar Crest?
It all falls down towards the back and ultimately travels through the Cedar Crest Station subdivision, which is a LDQRD that we designed back in 2020, and that'd be to your northeast there.
Okay,
Since then, ResiBuilt has purchased it and is under construction of homes there.
all right. Are there any questions from the planning commission to the applicant?
Restate what you said a second ago about the realignment or extension of Harmony Grove.
Yeah, so Harmony
that's-
Grove Church Road will ultimately go straight across the road and through the purple strip that's adjacent to the red strip.
And on your site plan, is that this?
Let me look.
Is that it?
Yes, sir. That's
Okay.
it. And so we've been working with Heath and Lineback, Paulding County DOT, Erica, George, development agreements and everything to facilitate. It'll basically be a 3-lane road from Harmony Grove all the way basically to the creek, and then from the creek to the school there close to Westbrook Creek. It'll go back to a standard 2-lane, and it'll have a couple access points for both this development and the previously zoned development off of that extension road. So that will be basically the primary access for this entire development.
Okay.
At that intersection in red light, which is ideal if you think about it.
And what's the time frame on that?
Well, to my understanding, and George can ad lib, I think the school needs it like sooner than later, like maybe yesterday. And so we are actively trying to secure our LDP for our 10 acres, which encompasses their Heath and Lineback design for the construction. So as far as I'm concerned, I think construction is probably within 30 days on my client's end. And I don't know contractually what they've agreed upon with Paulding about who builds what when. That George can easily answer those questions. But I know that this process has been going on now for over 6 or 8 months, and there's been a lot of development agreement conversations back and forth and such as that. So that it's going to happen, in my opinion, pretty soon.
Yes, I'd agree. Right now, we've got advertisement for construction opened up. We're open to see some bids Friday. Based on that, we've got some development agreements that need to be signed and brought before the Board of Commissioners, but we're hoping to start some work out there sometime next month.
Question for Mr. Robinson. The property just to the west of this had a special use permit issued in, August of 22. So that also will front that new road. So just still trying to get my bearings on this parcel is just for.
Yes, you're correct.
Okay.
The B2 portion was a part of the B2. It was zoned at the same time as B2 because it was a special use permit with it for a climate controlled storage facility. And yes, that was approved. And that also included that access road.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions to the applicant or staff from the planning commission?
You're outside of the gym or the gym, the other 3 parcels. You have any idea of uses yet?
Nothing yet. My client has been getting a lot of interest in it, but there's nobody who's really come forth because they don't know how to price it yet, not knowing, 1, if it's going to be approved, and 2, what the construction cost to be.
Okay.
We've done the layout and we've done some preliminary engineering, but nothing to where they could put a budget number on it. But there is a very good amount of interest so far, so that's a good sign.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions from the planning commission? Board of Commissioners, any questions? Okay, is there anyone else here that wishes to speak on behalf of this application?
Yes, my name is Jason Pelusi. I'm with the fitness center that they're looking to bring in here. We just wanted to say, it's not a typical gym. We're definitely a high-end club. We do high amenities at a low price, affordable price. I think the community is desperately in need for the product that we would bring in. A little bit about myself, I've been in the fitness industry for 28 years. There was a company called Atlanta Fitness, now One Life Fitness. I'm a small partner in that. I broke away about 18 months ago. We opened up 2 of our facilities. We're looking to expand in the Atlanta area and continue to build. Not only as a destination point, especially today with a lot of the youth as kids are getting involved into fitness, but really developing that where they don't go to the malls anymore. They kind of go to the gyms. Destination point for moms coming in, bringing their kids with a child care facility, also with a swimming pool, swim lessons for the community. In most of our facilities, we have swimming, and we actually give free swim lessons to the community for the adults as well, which is a big need as well. So really looking at creating a high-end, elegant health club at a price that people can afford as well. So we drew up some boards, and these are just not to scale, and we don't have any things with our architects, but these are the type of what we're looking to do at that location. Like you said, a 40,000 square foot location. We usually do it like a 10,000 square foot mezz. Just bringing in some of the greatest equipment in the community and really making it something that you can be proud of as we're investing into that as well. Our other locations, we're currently buying those buildings as well, so we're not just going into community and trying to put a business there, but actually being part of the community as well.
Do you have trained people to operate the gym?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Yeah, we do. We have the staff. I mean, I have a lot of staff that's been with me for my last company I was with 16 years. I have people that drive over an hour to get to work to come work with me still for a testament of how we treat the employees and how we make them part of the team as well. But typically we have about 15 to 25 trainers on staff for education and things like that as well. We do body analysis, which is like hydration levels, bone density, muscle mass, and visceral fat. It's a lot of amenities that people will be able to help. We have in some of our locations we have haircutting facilities as well. So just a little bit of everything.
Any other questions from the Planning Commission? Board of Commissioners?
I have another.
Yeah, we usually do a junior Olympic size, so it's 25 meters. So we have a lot of swim teams, like in our Madonna location, we have Ola High School that uses ours, Strong Rock Community Middle School that uses ours as well, so they use them for those meets. It was an old corporation I had. It used to be called 2020 Fitness, so we turned it to Fitness 2020. Bad year to name it after, but it was more about creating the vision. It was really touching because, we opened these locations in 2022 and people would come in, and it was probably one of the best moments of my life as we were putting up our sign, and on the bottom of our sign it says create your own vision. One of the young ladies that came in, she goes, now I get it. I am going to come here and create my own vision. So it's a play off of that. So it's not what one person thinks, it's what everybody thinks, because everyone looks at fitness for a different reason, whether it's health, whether it's the way they feel, whether it's the way their pants felt that day, whether it's they broke up with someone, they want to get back in shape. It creates a lot of vision for a lot of different people. And really watching the locations that we bought and took over, and really watching the members that were there experience that vision alongside of it was a really great time. So that's where the 2020 comes from. No, I'm an old guy, so I don't do any of that. Keegan can do that now, so.
That's not very much. I have a question for Mr. Jones. Jonathan. Since there's more than Mr. Jones here.
Yes, sir.
They're just a user on this parcel. Who's developing the
MK
parcel?
Group, Kashif Rana, he's president.
Okay.
And he originally bought the former piece and brought it through, and then this became available. I think there was a couple people trying to make a 55 and older out of this parcel and couldn't really get it to work for whatever reason, and so it made sense for him to add it on, and then he's been able to form a relationship with these guys, so it's kind of transpired from there.
Is all that parking, that's for the whole parcel, not just what their requirements are, is it?
Their desire was 400 spaces.
Yeah, 400.
I couldn't get 400. I think I got like 300 maybe.
Right. And what they need, but what zoning requires may be different too.
Well, zoning's much less. It's
Yes.
124.
But are the other sites going to be padded out and ready for sale?
Yeah,
Is it
they'll all
gonna
be a padded out scenario, yes, sir.
And-
And hopefully by the time we get to that LDP, he'll have some tenants lined up and we can actually pad them out and
Okay.
develop them for those uses. But
And then
we'll
if
have
the-
to come in for individual parcels, I'm
And if
sure.
the extension's not ready, you're going to just use right in, right outs off of Cedar Crest?
The extension, knock on wood, unless something crazy goes on, will definitely be available for this track for sure.
Okay.
If it is not, then a drive will be built for the access of the 3 existing facilities that we've already zoned by the developer. But most likely, I don't see that as being a holdup, frankly. That's just my opinion. Because it's well needed for the school system. And
Okay.
we're trying to work with DOT to push it as fast as we can too. So.
Okay. Any other questions from Planning Commission? Board of Commissioners?
I have a question, and that is the other uses in there. I love the idea of the gym. I think that's fabulous, and I think it would be a great asset to that community. But what about the other things? Do they have to come back before the board, or what is the process? I guess I'm asking a question of information here.
I'll be happy to defer to Mr. Robinson, but I would say that the B1 zoning uses, if you rezone it to B1, all of the uses under B1 would be allowable unless you restricted the list somehow.
And that would be correct, that they would have to come in and meet any of the permitted uses requirements of B1 plus any development standards for those individual lots.
Okay, thanks.
And each pulled permit to build would go through a plan review process as well. So aside from this process for approving the use as a general idea, of course, the plan review process gets far more specific. Any other questions from Planning Commission, Board of Commissioners? Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on behalf of this application?
Hello, how you guys doing? I just kind of wanted to
Can you state
give
your name
you.
for the record?
I'm sorry.
Can you state your name for the record? I know you, but they may not.
I'm Deborah Seaver,
Yes, thank
and I am representing the buyer on this property and working with the gym and collaborating with that. And then I know some of you had the question, like, with regards to he had purchased the other property, the other 10 acres. And then also just kind of want to give you an idea of what he's wanting to do in Paulding County is he's also, now we have developing, it's called Town Creek Center. It's on Dallas-Ackworth Highway. And it's beautiful, beautiful buildings, retail buildings. We've got, we're working with some medical users. We've got 3 national restaurants that we're working with. So it's going to be a great center for, you know, people in the area and even outside the area to come and have meals and so forth. And what we're trying to do is keep the money in Paulding County, right? Instead of people going to Cobb and in that area, in that North Paulding, and spending money in Cobb County, you know, with restaurants, trying to keep it there. So that's similar to what we're going to be doing on the out parcels. So I'll be marketing those out parcels, and we're going to be looking at bringing things that's going to be very beneficial to the community. So you can rest assured it's going to be a great product and a great center.
How about bringing some of those things to the south part?
Hey, we'll get those people to hire me, and I will.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on behalf? There's a few minutes remaining. Hearing none, anyone wishing to speak in opposition or may have questions, comments, or concern regarding this development application? Hearing none, then, at this time, I will entertain a motion from the Planning Commission with regard to application 2024-11-Z. Again, there are only 7 listed stipulations, so I've opted to start at 2 through 8 and renumber them.
I make a motion to approve with the 7 listed stipulations.
Okay, I have a motion to approve from Mr. Leggett. I have a second from Ms. Fitzgerald. Again, that's with the 7 listed stipulations. All in favor? Motion passes. Let's see if I can count this time. 5-0 and 1. Thank you very much for your time and patience during the course of the meeting. At this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
From Mr. Steele.
Second.
Second from Mr. Callahan. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0 and 1. Thank you.